Snuffy goes to the benches and picks Sendao for his substitution as he's fully recovered. However, the same thing can't be said about Corona, who is having a hard time standing. And here we have Igarashi really thinking that he will get to be sent in. What a joke. Anyway, Noah says that the next player with the best overall stats is Kiora Jin, and that it's his time to play as a right back. When I first saw this, I was ecstatic. I've been waiting for Kiora for so extremely long that I can't even describe it. However, my happiness quickly shattered as Isagi came over and told Noah that if they do that, then they won't win, and Noah asks him to explain himself. Isagi explains that Kiora is a talented player, and if they look at his individual stats, it's right up there with the rest of the starters, not to mention that his skill set allows him to take over Corona's place at right back seamlessly. However, to defeat the Ubers as they are now, they need a player they can't predict, and someone who can improvise on the fly. And I love how Kiora is just standing there watching them talking about him not getting to play, which is kind of sad. Anyway, back to Isagi, who says that they need a playmaker who can breathe new ideas onto the pitch, otherwise known as a game changer. Noah is quiet before telling him that Bastard has a rule where players are ranked and picked according to their overall numbers. Yet Isagi insists on breaking this rule and using a player with a lower rank. Noah even asks Isagi what his logic is for this argument. Isagi doesn't hold back and says that it's to allow him to score, and says that for him to become this game's hero, he needs Noah to put Hiroyo into the game instead of Kiora. Isagi apologizes to Kiora and says that it's something that he needs to try out with Hiroi, saying that Hiroi is the only player who sees the game as he does, and that he's the only one who can keep up with his vision and thought process. Isagi begs Noah, telling him that he's just one piece away and that he needs his partner to score the winning goal. But even so, Noah refuses. He says that he won't accept such a childish and emotionally driven argument, and that he only accepts rational and logically driven arguments. But that's when Hiroi starts, saying that if they had one more playmaker who sees the game from a bird's eye view, then that means that the player can anticipate Isagi's movements and support him. And if they can manage to do that, then they can minimize the time Isagi spent strategizing and increase his play speed. To the opponents, it would seem like there are two Isagis on the field, saying that he is fine with being Isagi's shadow. Hiroi thinks that after being controlled by his overbearing parents, he was sick and tired of people forcing their expectations on him, but for some weird reason. Right now, this is the first time he's wanted to do something for himself. As he puts his gloves on, he says that he wants to see how he stacks up against the world, and that for the first time in his life, he's going to believe in himself. And with that, Noah finally concedes and accepts their proposal. However, he also says that if they screw up, they will both be dropped from the starting lineup, which they gladly accept. And with Hiroi in his hand, Isagi is fully ready for his last and final piece to seize this game. After that, we see Snuffy sitting down in his master chair while taking his headband off. He tells the Ubers that since Baru already hijacked the team, they shall play through him, while of course using the tactics he's shown them, and lastly encouraging them to make a goal that even him couldn't possibly come up with, which the Ubers players are fully on board with. Snuffy also has a rather sluggish look on his face as he tells Baru that if they lose, he better take full responsibility. This, of course, doesn't face the king, who just tells him to sit quietly on the bench and tremble in fear as he watches Baru surpass him. Baru's words don't only hype up Snuffy, but also the entirety of the Uber squad, who's now more than ever ready to give it their all. As Noah approaches his seat, he puts his arm on Kiora's shoulder and he promises him that he will play in the next match, as he got completely shafted in this game. I honestly still feel so bad for him, but at the same time, I feel extreme excitement towards Hiroi, who's getting ready to give it his all. But let's just take a quick moment to appreciate Neru, who tried to comfort Kiora as he went back to his seat. I swear Neru is such an overlooked character. He's always there to hype or comfort his teammates. Same goes for Kitsunezato. Anyway, back to Hiroi, who thanks Isagi for picking him. However, Isagi says that he didn't do it for him, and that he instead needs his abilities to score, as he asks him if he can use Metavision, which Hiroi surprisingly and calmly says that he can. Isagi violently throws his water bottle down on the ground, as he asks Hiroi what he was able to see when Snuffy stopped his counterattack. Hiroi says that Isagi would have been able to score if he had gotten the ball at his feet. However, he adds on by saying that they can't fault Yukimiya for sending that lob pass, as it was thanks to him dribbling that Isagi created the space needed to score. Hiroi then follows up with the most important question, asking what Isagi's plan is. However, Isagi takes some inspiration from Noah, as he tells Hiroi that he has no idea at all, which shocks Hiroi as he says that he can't believe that Isagi would demand Noah to pick him without a plan. Isagi says that it was the only choice he had, and as Ubers also made their substitutions, they will probably have to ad-lib and improvise on the fly. And with that, he puts his hand out to Hiroi and says that they will win 100%. Hiroi says that what they need right now is a collaborated winning vision, where they both read and analyze the game with metavision as he meets up with Isagi's hand. He also thinks to himself and wonders why it is that he doesn't hate the expectations that Isagi has for him, and that he's definitely going to change during his match. As the masters sit down, Noah tells Snuffy that he didn't expect him to resort to such emotional tactics, and asks him if he got all soft due to those brats' enthusiasm and passion. After that, Snuffy says that he can see why Noah chose Isagi as his protege, as he's got quite a unique talent. Noah says the same thing about Baru, and says that his potential would be up there with some of the best U20 strikers in the world, which Snuffy definitely agrees with. He even says that seeing Isagi and Baru so fired up together reminds him of Noah and Ego and the twisted rivalry they had. However, Noah just tells him not to compare him to that twisted maniac. After that, Snuffy even goes so far as saying that if those two continue to evolve at this incredible and fast rate, their little pipe dream of Japan someday winning the World Cup might go as far as coming into reality. We quickly leave the Masters and go to Ness, who's currently stressing his heart out, saying that even just containing Isagi is already a pain in the ass. However, now they will have to adapt and deal with Uber's unpredictable tactics as well. He even goes as far as saying that there's a chance that he and Kaiser will actually lose. But just then, Kaiser comes and puts his arm around Ness, asking Ness what's wrong, and says that if he keeps looking like that, even the goddess of victory will abandon him. Ness starts to freak out even more as he asks Kaiser what they should do, but Kaiser just tells him to be calm and says that every game has gaps that they can exploit, which Isagi will definitely try to find. With that, Kaiser has an intense and furious look as he says that he will destroy them all and asks Ness if he's ready for it. We leave the married couple and go to Lorenzo, who tells Baru that he can have one of his golden teeth, which Baru quite easily turns down. Lorenzo tells him that he's indebted to Baru as he's never ever seen Snuffy make such a face before. Baru tells him to pay back the debt now, and that they all better set him up for winning. The game is starting to begin soon, and with that, we see a bunch of bastard Munchin players being determined not to lose. As Gagamaru says that he will definitely stop the next one, we also have Yukimiya, who says that he will now become the game's hero. Reichi also tries to hype them up, and says that now that Snuffy is gone, it's time for them to shift the game back in their favor. The speakers suddenly go off and say that the stage is set after a fierce back-and-forth battle with sensational goals on both sides. Bastard Munchin and the Ubers are tied 2-2. Who will be the one to score the winning goal and emerge as this game's protagonist? As this is going down, we see Isagi walking with pieces flying everywhere as he ironically says that he's got all the pieces he needs to score and become the hero. He will take full advantage of Hiroi's playmaking abilities and dominate this game. And just like that, the final restart in the Neo Egoist League Match 5 kickoff finally starts as we see Bastard Munchin starting it off, and Isagi thinking to himself that the last goal and the king of the game will be him. After that, we see both Kaiser and Ness advancing on the field, when suddenly Baru comes forward, asking Kaiser to show him what he's made of. Kaiser just pulls his regular scary face as he says that he will take Baru down. However, while they are going at each other, Ness notices something strange. He notices that Baru is there trying to press them, which he has never done before. Kaiser passes the ball to Ness, who knows that in a situation like this, his job is to lure them in, which he definitely does as he gets behind not one, but two Ubers players. Baru tells them to trap Ness, but before they can do anything, Ness has already gotten away with an outstanding pass to Kaiser, who traps it marvelously. Like, I'm not gonna lie, but Kaiser's trap reminds me of something Nagi would do. Anyway, Ness falls flat on the ground, but even though he got his face crushed, he still said that it was a success as he got the ball to Kaiser. Kaiser looks unstoppable as he's advancing up on the field. He even manages to catch one of the Ubers players off guard by just attacking straight. Nico tells his teammates not to let him shoot and to watch out for the flanks. However, Grim has already managed to find himself a position on the flank as he calls for Kaiser. Even so, Grim doesn't satisfy Kaiser, who is forcefully looking for a path that he can send his Kaiser's impact in. He gets behind another one of Uber's defenders and cuts to the right to find himself a golden opportunity in between Aiku's and Ryu's faces. He shoots the ball with his lightning strike, and it would have gone in if it weren't for Lorenzo, who comes in his way and sacrifices his face to save the goal. The ball goes up in the sky and Isagi has his eyes on it. He knows that he has to run and get to the ball first. The ball is slowly going down and he thinks that if he can reach it, then he can turn it into a direct shot right away. However, just then, Aiku comes and heads away the ball, telling Isagi that he isn't the only one with metavision. Before we move on, let's just take a moment to really appreciate this fantastic panel. Aiku looks like a beast, and the snake is so well done that I'm almost speechless. The ball falls down to Hiyori, who's already in a feared 1v1. However, Baru feels a bit alone, so he decides to join in on the fun, calling Hiyori naive and a bench warmer as he pushes him to the side. Nico also comes by and says that he's shocked to think that Baru himself would come and help out on the defense, as he comes and just hijacks the ball from both of them. Isagi is quietly watching from the side, saying that he can't believe that Baru willingly decided to do the dirty work and play defense from the front, saying that something like that was unthinkable until now, and for them to account for that, their decision-making will be one step slower. Baru's loyalty is only to himself, which makes for a perfect union where a king combines forces with a flawlessly designed army, which allows him to pursue his glory. However, it isn't only Baru who's undergoing an insane evolution, as the whole of Ubers is feeling the same thing while leading their king. All of the Ubers players are advancing up on the field in their intense counter-attack, and they turn to Baru for an idea of who they should attack, but Baru just tells them to shut up and work, saying that he will make a hat trick in this game, and as he uses the Neo Egoist League, he's going to show the world that he's the best player in the world. On the other hand, we have Hiyori, who thinks to himself that he is insane, saying that this is a totally different level than before. He says that the Ubers are outstanding, and that they are too fast and too good, which makes it impossible for Hiyori to read them, saying that he hasn't gotten into the game at all. Hiyori is in shock that Isagi has been able to constantly aim for the goal which fighting all these monsters, not to mention Kaiser or Baru. Hiyori wonders how they are able to score goals at this level. He calls everyone here a twisted psycho before saying that he fucking loves this place, saying that this is the first time he's ever experienced this type of intense and mad football, before Isagi calls out his name and tells him to come to him. After that, we get thrown back into Hiyori's backstory, where he just fell down a flight of stairs, thanks to his mom and dad arguing. They rush over, but they aren't worried about him, not even in the slightest. They are only concerned about his precious football leg, and even the mom has the audacity to tell him how much time and money they have invested into Hiyori. And it was at that moment that he realized that his parents sadly didn't love him, and that all they cared about was his specs. That tragic day left Hiyori in despair, and since that day his passion and attitude for football changed. Before he only played football because it made his parents happy, but now he only plays football because he doesn't want to break up his family. As he's playing video games, he acknowledges that it's a disgusting and pathetic reason, and that his attitude towards football is also pathetic, but even so, he doesn't have anything else that he can fully devote himself to. Hiyori's eyes are filled with emptiness and darkness as he says he began to coast through life, trying to find something that could help him ignite his passion. But then he meets Karasutabito. He tells Hiyori that all that crap about people's expectations, to just think about that later, and to instead start with yourself, and to believe in yourself. He tells Hiyori that he needs to find something that truly gets his blood pumping, and if he doesn't stop there, then he will just keep running around in circles like an idiot. But even so, for Hiyori to believe in himself was something close to impossible, because for him, things like expectations are just curses and almost like chains which is weighing him down. Hiyori desperately wanted to get away from his parents and to just escape that miserable and tragic household, which was the sole reason that he came to Blue Lock. He did his best to survive in Blue Lock because, like he said before, he didn't want to go home. And then we see him in the tag game where he took someone out, which was quite interesting because we don't know that much about the other's experience in the early stages of Blue Lock. Anyway, thanks to Hiyori desperately clinging to that ego, he was able to hang on and survive within Blue Lock, even going as far as helping Isagi in the third selection and helping to win the U20 match. And now all that's left is the Ubers game, which we finally get back into. Reichi is screaming at Bastard Munchen to stop Uber's counterattack quickly, but as Hiyori is running back to help alongside Isagi, everything he can think about is how fast the Ubers are playing and how he's slowly falling behind. Even Ness is impressed at the Ubers' ability to dribble and advance at such a pace as they are going. Hiyori thinks that the quality of their combination plays is something truly outstanding that he's never experienced before. And not to mention the fact that Baru can get the best out of them, just like a king would move. But at the same time, it's not like he's moving selfishly. Baru, even though he's a selfish jerk, the aura that he's able to emanate makes the people around him trust him and follow his lead. Players who become the world's #1 striker probably have that ability that makes people follow them, which is amazing, but still something that Hiyori is unable to do now. An ego that teammates believe, trust, and gravitate toward. Hiyori has never really cared about believing or wanting to become the best player in the world. But then one day he saw Isagi, a player who sees the game in the same way as Hiyori does, and a player with his eye set on being the world's best player. And then it clicks for Hiyori that he isn't just a player, but that he's the key to Isagi's evolution. But it doesn't stop there either, as he says that he's the only one who can unlock his full potential. He thinks that if he hadn't come to Blue Lock, none of this would have happened. All of those golden opportunities that only he can see, they're his reason to fight on. Isagi holds the potential to become the world's #1 striker, but if they fail to capitalize on this golden opportunity, there's a good chance the world will forget about his potential. But it's fine, as Hiyori is the key, and he will be the one to unlock it. He will unlock a future where Isagi dominates the world stage, and that's a future worth living for. He will make Isagi the king of football. The ball falls onto Nico's shoe, which makes the ball bounce up, and out of nowhere, Lorenzo comes by and just sweeps away the ball. Both Isagi and Kaiser are there alongside Lorenzo, and they are both thinking that there's no way that they will let Lorenzo pass Baru. However, he unfortunately reaches the ball first and passes Baru, who's in front of the penalty area. As the ball is going toward him, out of nowhere the man himself, Hiyori, comes and stops the ball. He calls them idiots and reminds them that he also has metavision. He thinks that his ego isn't something that someone pre-planned for him. It's an ego that holds the key to the future, and most importantly, it's an ego he found for himself. And with that, he puts the key in his locker and finally breaks out of the chains that have been weighing him down all this time. He has a fierce look on his face as he looks to Isagi, telling him that it's time to fucking do this.